Hey guys, over the past few weeks I played through Dying Light: The Beast, and this video is going to be part review and part commentary on what I like the most about it and believe we are sorely missing in the wider games industry. I like to keep you guys on your toes like that, but I also don't want to, waste anyone's time if this is not exactly what you're looking for in a Dying Light video. There will not be any major spoilers in this, hardly anything really. I'm just going to talk about some factions. So yeah, let's just not waste any more time and drop kick right in. I'm a pretty big fan of the Dying Light series. As a major fan of their previous franchise already, Dead Island, which I spent a ridiculous amount of hours bashing zombies' brains in and looting a lot of tribal bags, I just had to buy Dying Light immediately as it came out 10 years ago. Especially after hearing that this was the developer's purest vision for a zombie game without any publisher interference. In short, Techland had creative differences with their higher-ups, and so they went their own separate ways to make this game here, and the result was love at first sight. And the same goes for Dying Light 2. Even though I acknowledge how much better the first game was, the truth is that I never understood the hate that the second game has to this day. I could understand some of it at launch, especially because several aspects of the game felt undercooked, but ever since then they worked hard as hell to give the game a bit of a renaissance of its own, kind of like what CD Projekt Red did with Cyberpunk. Difference being that nowadays people look at Cyberpunk and praise it. It redeemed itself, but the distaste for Dying Light 2 still lingers in the community. Though to be fair, I do understand that much of it seems to stem from a fundamental difference in the game's tone. There was a shift where the original was like more geared towards a survival horror zombie game with parkour, where the knights were actually dangerous and the hard-as-balls enemies, namely the volatiles, were not there with the expectation of being defeated by the player, like as if they were just high-level enemies. They were predators designed to make you sweat. And with Dying Light 2 there was a bit of a shift towards an action-adventure or action RPG style of zombie game with parkour where the main character's abilities have a high ceiling, and so hard enemies such as volatiles are there as, well, basically high-level creatures that you will one day be able to kill relatively easily due to your skill increases and the types of weapons that you could craft. Though to be fair, if you buy the Ultimate Edition of Dying Light 1, or whatever it's called, the one that comes out with all of the content, you will actually have overpowered weapons ready for crafting right from the very start of the game. So if you choose to, you can make the game a cakewalk. Hopefully you guys can see my issue with the criticism for these games now. It feels inconsistent. I don't see people ragging on Dying Light 1 after all these years despite the ridiculous weapons that you can craft at one-shot volatiles. But I do see people ragging on Dying Light 2 despite the studio overhauling the game, making it harder and bringing back some of the missed features from the original game, such as better ragdoll physics and impact reaction. But no matter. Dying Light: The Beast is here now, and it's actually what's most important. So, did the studio nail it? Is it a return to form? An actual one? Or did they get even further away from that original blueprint than they already did with Dying Light 2? This would be a great moment in the video for an ad read, but I literally have zero sponsors. No one's interested in dear old Dez here. Techland had a bit of a challenge ahead of them for The Beast. First of all, it's important to note that this game started as a planned expansion for Dying Light 2, but then Techland saw it getting bigger and bigger and decided to go big dick. And there you go, that's why I don't have any sponsors. But anyway, so they decided to go really big with this one and just turn it into a standalone project, selling it now at $60. However, it's digital only, so on consoles we're actually paying $70, which is a goddamn scam, but let's just hope that they do physical versions soon. So, with Dying Light: The Beast, they had a bit of a challenge ahead of them because now they had a bit of a split fanbase where a number of them are fans of the first game and think that the second one is an affront to it, and a number of them are fans of the second game and love what they did with it even if it sacrificed bits of the horror elements that the original had. And then there's those like me who loved both of these games for what they did, because at the end of the day, even if Dying Light 2 did things differently, it's still a terrific game. It's an extremely fun sandbox with quite a few ambitious ideas, such as a branching story with different factions and decisions to make, and yes, a better story. Like, I'm sorry, I might get a little bit of hate for this, but a lot of people in the Dying Light community have rose-tinted glasses when it comes to the first game's story. Or maybe, I don't know, they only joined in on a hype years later. What I do know is that they like to say that the first game's story was better too, but I was there, fellas. Day 1 in 2015, and I have not forgotten how much people mocked the villain for being a discount Vaz Montenegro from Far Cry 3, or just a discount Far Cry villain in general who loves to get really close to the camera, spit on our face, and talk about being a man, and doing stupid cliché bad guy shit like shooting his own man just to show the player how much of a gigachad he is, even if that decision was utterly ridiculous. I would agree with you guys that Crane is a better protagonist, of course, but in terms of characters and story, Dying Light 2 was an improvement. Even though when it comes to characters themselves, Dying Light 1 did not have any issues, it was mostly just a villain. In terms of side characters, Dying Light 1 has a lot of heart going with great moments featuring Rahim, Jade, Bracken, and a couple of other people. It's just that so does Dying Light 2 when it comes to characters. Techland always managed to do great moments that make us care for them, sometimes far more than we even care for the story or the villains themselves.
Rahim, what are you doing up here?
Hey, Crane. Can I trust you?
How much you had to drink, kid?
Can I or not?
Yeah. What's up?
See that skyscraper? Scout from the volatile nest in there. We take that out, and then running missions at night, we could totally do that. So I'm thinking, if we planted some explosives.
Oh, Jesus, Rahim, you're not still on that.
Crane, we have to do this. As long as that nest is there, we'll never be able to gather up enough antis. It would work. We make a good team. Ah! Shit, oh my... Ah! Don't drop me! Don't drop me! Oh, fuck. See? Told you we make a good team.
The closest thing to what you're talking about are Spike's firecrackers. That's impossible.
You don't know what it's like. All I can do is watch. Sit on my ass and watch everything happen and do nothing. I don't want to die here, Crane. Not like this, not helpless. If I go out, I'd rather go out doing something.
What's this?
I was set to fly out on Sunday. They quarantined us on Thursday. I already had my bags packed.
Look, I'll keep my eyes open, okay? If there's some way we can make this happen.
Whatever.
What will you do once you find your sister?
I'll find someplace for us to live. Someplace quiet. Gotta settle down somewhere now that I'm infected.
Where will you go?
Any place is better than this city.
Ha, well, that's a pretty low bar.
I'll find a place where people aren't afraid of pilgrims. Aren't afraid of me. It'd be nice not to have to run and hide for a while.
Well, I have a very specific plan.
You look like someone with a specific plan.
I'd like to live by the ocean. You know, it's supposed to be easier there. I always wanted to learn how to surf.
What, you find a bunch of old postcards or something?
Don't laugh at my dreams, man. I know one thing. I have to get out of this city. It's killing me, right from the inside. Will you help me?
The ocean's a long way from here. And we're both infected. People don't want pilgrims for their neighbors.
Fuck people. I will help you with them. And you can help me survive on the road. You know the routes. You know how to survive out in the open. What do you think? We cover each other's asses. How does that sound?
Okay, let's do it.
Awesome. Deal. You won't regret this, Aiden. I promise. As for your goal, here's the...
Kyle, look. You appear human, but me, the others, we rot in that cave. Literally rot. From the inside. these changes, these... I know I reek, Kyle. So do the others. You don't say anything, but I know you can smell it. The stench. I throw up every day. Every inch of me hurts. And in here, fewer and fewer human thoughts. Sometimes I have these urges. It's a death sentence, prolonged by shrooms, but we're still dying. What's it all for, Kyle?
With this new game, they could have made the mistake of doubling down on either direction and alienate a chunk of their player base, but instead, they actually managed to blend both of the games together really well and then polish a bunch of the mechanics into working smoothly and responsively at launch. Nights are back to being pitch dark and terrifying, with dangerous volatiles patrolling the streets and rooftops, and they're tough as nails too. I didn't feel anywhere near as inclined to fight them as I did in Dying Light 2. I just wanted to avoid them as much as possible. Nights are even worse now because your flashlight is now detectable by zombies and volatiles, even on normal difficulty. So you basically can't see shit at night, and if you turn on your flashlight and a volatile spots the beam, he will run in the direction that the light is coming from and search for you. Even if you're across the street on some rooftop or halfway across the woods high up on a tower. Thanks a lot, Techland. You son of a bit. The atmosphere and the vibe is back too, like you can forget all about the big city life of Dying Light 2 with lots of survivors and factions doing their thing. Over here in Castor Woods, you're mostly on your own. The setting is very remote as a small logging town. There's basically 3 factions but no faction system, so it's basically just 3 groups of people. The human survivors trying to make it in a broken world that is now, I believe, 16 years after the fall and 21 years after the first outbreak in Haran, which is the setting of the first game in case you didn't know. Then there's the Infected, which is a separate group of survivors who live in exile because the human survivors sent them packing due to being infected. Basically, we'll get there in a second, but in this game, infection is much more serious than in previous games, where partially infected people live together with non-infected people. And then there's the enemy faction, headed by a big bad guy named the Baron. His men are basically soldiers and scientists conducting all manner of Resident Evil-esque experiments on infected, trying to create monsters in the name of evolution. And so the whole story is wrapped up around these 3 elements. Of course there's more, there's bandits and outcasts out there and individuals with their own side quests, but what I'm trying to get at here is that there's this simplicity in the plot and the atmosphere of the setting. Because in Villador, life was bustling, it was more of a post-apocalypse. Even though everything was still dirty and shitty and packed with danger, it was still more like controlled danger, you know what I mean? Survivors had good systems and routines to make sure that they at least had a good safety net to not let things fall into pure chaos when it came to zombies and the infection. The biggest threat in this world was people in the various warring factions. Meanwhile, in this game, out here in Castor Woods, things are much different. One of the coolest earlier moments right around the start of the game is when a survivor gets bitten and everyone is freaking out, but Crane is not understanding why. He even brings up antizin, the drug that was present in the first game that people took in order to suppress the effects of the virus. Basically, if you took antizin regularly, you would halt the progression of the virus and prevent yourself from turning. The survivor scoffed, almost as if he had said a joke, because no one has seen a vial of antizin in over a decade.
Oh, shit.
Sorry, Sheriff. I let you down.
You did no such thing.
It's a fresh bite. We just need some antizin and we can...
Antizin? We haven't seen any of that in years.
But we have UV, shrooms,
And hopes and prayers and positive vibes, like any of that shit works. Sheriff, I just want you to know, it's been an honor.
Wait!
So getting bitten is now a much more serious issue. In the second game in the city of Villador, there wasn't any antizin either, but the locals had discovered that the new strain of the virus could be controlled with ultraviolet light. It would basically prevent people from turning, whereas being in the dark made the virus progress faster. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it worked. In Castor Woods, this is out the window as well, because the way that Villador made it work was because, well, it was Villador, a big city where power was not scarce, so communities of survivors managed to have UV lights going all day if necessary. There were also means of producing more UV lights in the city. There was also some special type of mushroom that allowed them to make inhalable suppressors, at least if I'm remembering correctly. Oh, and of course, everyone in Villador had to wear a biomarker, a special device that was basically latched onto you and read the state of your infection. This helped a lot with population control, alongside the fact that a bite was not the end of the world. Castor Woods is instead a really small town. There are no major power plants, there are no major survivor enclaves, and there are no means of production for more UV lights. In fact, UV flares are a very rare item in this game. Meanwhile, if you'll remember, in the second one, it was an item that we could use very regularly to keep infected at bay, or even to push them off of us as a quick combat reversal. In Castor Woods, there are also no biomarkers, which means zero way to manage infected people. So yeah, things are bleak and broken. The word survivor really hits when it comes to Castor Woods. If you're bitten, you have two ways out. You either take your own life, or you get exiled and, well, you let things run their course. Oh, and by the way, very important, the exiled infected that I mentioned earlier are not people who were bitten and are suppressing their infection. They are escaped test subjects of the Barons. They are special, kind of like Crane. That's why they can even exile out there and not have as great of a risk of turning as the regular humans do when they get bitten. Some of them don't even turn at all, they just die. Thanks to all of this, there's immediately a shift in the atmosphere and vibe when you jump from Dying Light 2 to Dying Light the Beast. In a way, it's even lonelier and more desperate than the first game. Because back there you kinda had that whole community up in the parkour tower and well, it's just a little bit different here. You do have your own group of survivors, but both groups with both headquarters are just very small groups, very few people, and the spirits, let's say, are pretty goddamn low. It's like people gave up and they're not even trying to build something new or anything like that, you know, they're just kinda there.
I expect to see an improvement in their self-motivation, in their physical activity, and I hope they stop living with crippling fear.
Sounds more like wishful thinking than science.
Hey, as long as it works.
And if it doesn't?
I tried handing out antidepressants and that didn't work one bit. We are no longer human, biologically speaking. What can I say? Can't be worse than it is now.
When you restore electricity for them, they get really happy and things start to move a little bit upwards from there, but in general, for the majority of the game, it's about that desperation. It's part of the story itself. There's a desperation. People are either worried that they're going to die from a monster in the night or from soldiers during the day, and that's part of the narrative really because of what happens later in the story. But enough about that, let's touch on the gameplay. How is the gameplay, Dez? Well, it's pretty goddamn good, but let's take it slow. So we already touched on how the night gameplay is back to being tense. This was a feature they brought back from the first game alongside with the more bleak atmosphere. From the second game, they brought back a bunch of lovely mechanics and features that made the gameplay feel so damn good to engage with that I have next to no complaints to talk about here. There were times where I used to jump back into Dying Light 2 just to do some free running around the city. There's games that I keep installed just for that, like Mirror's Edge for instance. Sometimes I just jump in, do a little bit of parkour, and then I leave. And Dying Light 2 became one of those games because it was just that damn fun to do so with the new additions such as sprinting fast as fuck, doing those jump launches that allowed you to leap across rooftops, or to launch yourself higher up in the air. There was also the air vents that launched you straight into the sky, and the parachute that let you glide around. These didn't make it into the Beast though. The setting is far smaller and there's not as much verticality, so they kept those out. But those parkour moves are still in here and they are smoother than ever before. If you'll recall, the first game's parkour was very loose. It wasn't as mechanically deep, but the looseness allowed for a high skill ceiling and freedom of movement. I'm talking about the first game here. Then the second game made it mechanically deeper, however it also added some sort of, I don't know how to put this into words. Basically it made things feel a little bit more stricter, almost like it was partially assisted, kind of like how it feels to jump between poles in older Assassin's Creed games where if you don't want to miss those landings, you're not ever going to because it's programmed for you to go from point to point to point to point. In the Beast, they kept the new mechanics but loosened things up a notch. So now, there's more autonomy again, which also means that you can miscalculate jumps more easily and fail, but that's part of the fun. Oh, also important to note that the grappling hook is still here, and you can swing around like Spider-Man if you want to. After unlocking it, this was my main means of transportation. I didn't even use cars all that much. They also kept stuff like the execution moves, wall running, faster sprinting, parrying, etc. All of those mechanics from before are here, they've been fixed, they've been polished, and some of that inherent stickiness that used to be there in the second game is gone. Combat feels good and looks even better. For context, I used to play Dead Island 2 because the combat felt really good with the way that the impact felt and the way that gore was implemented, making every hit feel really responsive and result in gnarly damage. But now if I want the same experience, I can just play the Beast, because that's how good it feels in this game. Plus you got the damn parkour on top. Also, the developers put out a roadmap announcing even more executions to be added later, so the game is only going to be getting better. The rest is untouched. You still have a central necessity to roam around scrounging for weapons and crafting resources to make your life easier, and no matter where you are, be it in the main town area or smaller town areas, farms, industrial areas, etc., there's always a bunch of interiors for you to enter through and loot, look around, or just parkour through. From Dying Light 2, Dark Hollows also make a return. These are locations with a lot of good loot, but also packed with infected. They're back. They're both good to loot at night or by day. Usually you just have a howler patrolling, a couple of virals, and a bunch of zombies. Howlers, though, are way more terrifying than they ever were now, because they look like this. Literally big, tall, and brooding volatiles in strength jackets or whatever. But they're still just howlers. I'm just doing an aside here because when I first saw them, I was terrified. I thought that they were volatiles and I was even pissed off for a second because it was nighttime. So I was like, bitch, it's nighttime. I came here at night. Volatiles are meant to be outside. I got through a bunch of volatile assholes outside to reach this damn place so that I could loot in peace, and now they're inside too. Fuck you, Techland. But yeah, no, actually, they're just howlers. All that they do is they scream and alert everyone else in the building to come and attack you, but they're not going to break out of their strength jackets and demolish you with one grab attack, so you're fine. Just rush them, whack them before they scream, or do stealth takedowns. You're good, fellas, don't be retarded like me. These places have resources, but also unique loot, which was huge because if you know me, then you know that I absolutely require to be aptly rewarded for my exploration. And I'm happy to report that this game has loads of this, both directly and indirectly. Meaning that, for example, you got these dark hollows which are placed on the map and tell you exactly what your reward is going to be. It's that thing over there. See, for example, this one has a glove, this one has a hat. So these are unique pieces of loot, gear pieces that you get from going there once and clearing it the first time. Then you no longer get it, but there's always resources that keep refreshing as you play day by day. But then you also have a bunch of other stuff across the world map that you can find on your own, either by exploring freely or others through environmental puzzles for you to solve and get fantastic rewards. Like some of the best rewards were in these. Some of them are from treasure maps that you're going to find, and then you can seek out the location in the world itself. Some of the best rewards that the game has to offer are right here through the treasure maps. Like some of the best guns that I found were through these. But others are just totally random. Like, for example, I was exploring the woodland areas around the main monastery building, which is like our main home location, and I found this axe, which is basically Kratos' axe from God of War, which you can throw at enemies and it'll return to your hand. In order to balance this out, Techland made it unfixable. So if you want another one, you're going to have to craft it. Or Shh, don't tell anybody, especially not the devs, but it kinda keeps respawning infinitely and updates its own level. So just go back to the log cabin, climb up to the balcony and grab it again. For now, this has not been patched and still works, but don't tell the devs. Whatever you do don't let them know a goddamn thing. Speaking of exploring woodland areas, this game also works in the fan-favorite expansion of the following by giving us a pretty decently sized area to explore on foot or in pickup trucks. You can also get around pretty creatively by using power lines high up as zip lines across the map. Seriously, just going around and exploring this playground was so awesome. And don't forget, as soon as you get that grappling hook, you can literally be the woodland Spider-Man. Everything just comes together so well here. Combat feels super good. Exploration is rewarding. Everything you see is beautifully detailed. They spared no expenses here, like the interiors and exteriors alike are drenched in detail. The HDR mode in this game is crazy. It looks fantastic, but it's really harsh when you record it. Like if I like this footage right now, it may be too bright for you guys, and you guys may think, well, this looks like ass. That's because it doesn't work very well when you translate it to YouTube and all. Well, first of all, when you translate it into recorded footage, and then when you put it on YouTube, it's even worse. But in the game itself, if you have a TV with HDR, this game is going to look crazy good. But most of the footage that you've been seeing in this video so far has been without HDR, because I turned it off in order to be able to record everything normally. Anyway, where the fuck was I? Alright, the setting. The setting is just gorgeous, dude. This one is one right after my own heart. So I may be a little bit biased, but you got yourself a beautiful mountain town type of setting with an old town area, beautiful old buildings, a huge monastery, a big castle way off in the distance, small overgrown neighborhoods, hiking trails, old ruins, and an overall rustic look to everything that you see. I love this kind of setting so much in just about any kind of game, but in a game like this, where I can go anywhere, explore anything, go inside of buildings, go outside, look around, it just felt so much better. The ragdoll and the AI have been improved and are back in top form as well, because this was actually another issue from Dying Light 2, where they improved a lot of things outside. You know, they introduced a lot of stuff, a bunch of new things, and their ambition rose higher than ever before for their little studio making those Dead Island games before. But some of the core things that the original had were lost in translation to these new systems of theirs. But now they're back. Some are already back in Dying Light 2 via those patches that I mentioned earlier in this video, but others are now back and even better in The Beast. And that shit just makes me happy, because it's like, thank you for hearing us out, you know? I'm so used to seeing fans being completely ignored. Some studios just think that after making it, after a game of theirs hit the mainstream and they make a bunch of money, they don't have to listen to their core audience anymore. They just do whatever and it'll sell anyway because of the name alone. It's like they don't have to take fans in their decision making anymore. This is how we get sequels that throw away favorite characters for no reason. Not talking about Dying Light 2, by the way. We actually did have a clear ending with the first game. And Aiden wasn't a dislikable character, he was a likable guy and he had quite a bit of intrigue going on with whatever the GRE did with his body. It's just that he wasn't Kyle Crane. I mean, Kyle Crane is the GOAT. It is what it is. But in either case, having another game set about 20 years later with an expansion of the lore was a smart idea, and it helped make The Beast be even better by using that lore to its full potential and expanding it even more now. Plus, it also made it feel like Kyle Crane has been gone for a long time, because, well, he has been gone for a long time. It's hard to believe, but the first game came out 10 years ago already. There's other examples of games doing this kind of thing, you know, abandoning their characters and doing so not because they're trying to do innovation and building something new using the same kind of recipe, but because they want to use the first game's success as a booster for bad ideas and ridiculous directions that go against their original fan bases. You can find this in some recent games from PlayStation like Ghost of Yotei, and even outside of it like with Dragon Age Veilguard, Soy Squad, Kill the Justice League, Assassin's Creed, and sadly, as much as I hope that I'm wrong, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. I will definitely be playing it soon. I actually already tried it out last night, and I'll be giving you guys an honest overview when I'm done. It's a mistake, and most of all, it's a disappointing attitude that makes us lose touch with developers, and it's damn sad when it happens, so huge W and big thanks to Techland for seriously spending all of this time listening to their people and truly focusing on what is important, because holy hell, it's so easy to lose sight of it. You know what really fits here? Fallout. If you go and check out the earlier games in the franchise and you look at the more recent ones like Fallout 4, 76 and the Fallout show, you'll notice how much of the darkness and grittiness has been watered down, and in some cases like the Fallout show, totally replaced with god-awful unfitting humor and caricature-esque people, locations and interactions. This is kind of because some time ago, Fallout had its own Dying Light 2 moment. I think it was even Fallout 4, where the game itself on its own wasn't necessarily bad, but it was getting away from important core values that the franchise was anchored on, and people noticed it and they complained about it. But unlike Techland, Bethesda didn't listen to the fans and go back to try and fix it by crowning it back in, trying to find where it is that they detached themselves and try to kind of weave it back together with this new vision. Instead, it just doubled down on all the wrong shit, and now Fallout is kind of just, well, it's just not Fallout anymore. It is for the normie tourists that just jumped in and pretend like they know what Fallout is because, oh, humor was always in it, but not really. Not like this. In fact, if Bethesda keeps going down this route, Fallout is going to be looking closer to the Outer Worlds than actual Fallout. So before going into the themes and appeal section, I just wanted to drop a quick word on the story. I'd rather not spoil anything, so I'm going to keep it very short. There's going to be some familiar faces popping up from previous games. They were handled really well and the villain is very engaging. He's a bit of a cliche, evil asshole type, but it just works. I would rather have this as a villain than some boring guy who is forgettable or some buffoon for the sake of cracking jokes. Obviously, you follow Crane's story after the last time that we saw him like 20 years ago after the events of the following expansion in Dying Light 1, and it's a revenge story that fully plays into it and into the power fantasy aspect of playing as Crane, who has changed a lot thanks to dangerous experimentation with the virus. This guy is a beast now, quite literally. If the Insomniac Wolverine game doesn't pan out very well, we at least have this game right here, which is basically the same thing. There was a lot of evolution and new things introduced into the lore, and the very lore of the town itself that you're on is rich, reaching back hundreds of years into the times of witch trials, so before the virus was even a thing. It's part of a whole backstory that you can piece together yourself through old books, lab notes, and newspaper pages. It worked well and had a satisfying resolution, very high adrenaline stuff, which brings me to the themes and appeal. What I love the most about this game is how it unapologetically gives the fans exactly what they want. Way too often these days we have cases of studios, especially in the AAA space, doing the opposite. When Techland made Dying Light 2, they got a lot of criticism for watering down certain mechanics and atmosphere elements, so in this sequel they focused on bringing those back. They got a lot of criticism for the atmosphere, so they made it darker, and they also noted how many people missed Kyle Crane and wanted to play as him again. See if there could be another way to bring him back and continue his story. So they brought him back in his full glory. Like, it's been 10 years for the studio, but they haven't forgotten what the character is. Like, he's not coming back as some weak fucking cuck or whatever. No, he is Kyle Crane. He's gone through a lot of shit. He's got many regrets and failures that haunt him. These are things that you'll see him work on throughout the story, but he's also stronger than ever before and thirsting for revenge on an evil bastard. There's a totally unapologetic direction towards leaning into the power fantasy aspect of playing as him, who by now is a more grizzled, tough-as-nails mercenary who gets shit done. You are the strongest guy around. You're the hero.
Plumber, electrician, telecom tower technician. And on weekends, I save the world.
You are vitally important for the success of the survivors that you come across, and it all depends on you. There are no bullshit subversions, no bullshit side plots to put random side characters in the spotlight just to be able to say, oh look, see, this character is also a very capable character too, and they don't need Crane, okay? Like, nobody wants this kind of shit in games like this. I wish more studios understood this, but this is like it's becoming a lost art. Like, I remember playing the last Spider-Man game, Spider-Man 2, and feeling like Peter didn't even fucking matter anymore. And I said this in the previous video, and in the end, they go and retire him. He's fucking 24. And this was supposed to be the game where there's the symbiote, Venom. This was supposed to be Peter at his most savage, Spider-Man at his most dangerous, and we just didn't get that at all. We got that for one night in the game. That I remember some cutscenes where he doesn't attack Harry and MJ, but he kind of hurts them indirectly, and then he regrets it afterwards. That was it. That was the biggest controversial moment that we had as Peter in the symbiote. Like, where's the grit? Where's the power? Where's the... You know what? I just smacked the fuck out of my table to try and prove a point here. Like, where's that energy? It's like studios are so ashamed of leaning into that kind of thing nowadays, whereas you go back like 15 years and it was so common. And I understand when you're using it as a device for a plot, like for example in God of War Ragnarok, Kratos is kind of, he begins the game and he's just sad, he's depressed, his son, he thinks his son is going to die, he saw his death in a mural, his as in Kratos, like Kratos saw his own death in a mural at the end of the first game, Ragnarok is coming, he has a crazy goddess lady trying to kill both him and his son, he has Odin and Thor, whose sons he killed in the previous game, they want him dead, the world is about to end because of Ragnarok, etc. And he just looks at his son and he sees a weak boy, a punk bitch, right? And so he's depressed in the beginning of the game because he's like, oh fuck, my son is going to die, I can't protect him, I'm going to die because I saw my death, blah 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 blah, right? So I understand Kratos being kind of sad, depressed, deflated over at the beginning of the game, but then it's used as a tool so that later, when he fucking gets angry at Thor specifically in a fight, you have that hype moment where it's like, oh, there it is, there's the ghost of Sparta. But in Spider-Man we didn't have that, and in so many games these days it's not used as a tool for that. It's just that developers don't like that kind of energy anymore in their games, and it's just a damn shame, man. So anyway, sorry, rant over. I gotta go fix my table now. And by the way, I better not be seeing any soy boys in the comment section talking about toxic masculinity. Like, stop. There's no such thing. Masculinity is just masculinity, and it's made up of many different traits, some better than others, some, more useful in some situations than others, etc. It's just like how femininity is made of many different traits as well, some better than others too, where, for example, you've got their nurturing side, their empathetic side, etc. But then you also have that side that takes 3 fucking hours to pick out a blouse at the mall or to choose where they want to eat. Masculinity, on the other hand, is something that has been deemed as negative, especially in the games industry and other entertainment things in the, in the streaming industry, for example, with Disney. It has been seen as something that excludes other gamers from the space, namely women. These are 2 separate topics that I'll be going into in the future, sooner than later, I hope. Both the masculinity in games and the little nonsense news that broke out some days ago about gaming being a near-perfect 50-50 split right down the middle between male audience and female audience, without taking into account that that's including mobile game numbers, which many women don't even consider gaming, and that kind of data can and will affect how games like Dying Light here get made, making them objectively worse because of thinking that they need to fixate on a female audience, which will want different focuses, since power fantasies where you essentially play as Wolverine in a zombie apocalypse isn't exactly the type of thing that girls are into or that match up with femininity, especially in a more general sense. But the problem is that the numbers are ridiculous. They're not tied in reality. It's not actually a thing. It's not that there's 50% of women playing games like Dying Light. They're playing shit like Candy Crush. or you know, visual novels and other things in the cozy genre. So when AAA companies take this kind of data and they start making decisions for their games based on it, mistakes are sure to follow, and we've already been seeing effects of that over the past 10 years. And of course, I'm aware that there's girls playing Dying Light as well. That's the thing, there's always going to be some women out there who see these things that skew more towards male audiences and they like them. But the thing is that they like them precisely because they're made the way that they are. If you alter them, they're not going to like them anymore, because those core values that drew them in will be gone. So for now, I'll leave it here, but stay tuned for that, and hey, subscribe if these types of discussions are something that you are interested in. Lastly, just to conclude here, this game is shorter in length, but not short. I got around 60 hours in it because I did all of the side quests and went into every location exploring as much of the map as I could. Though I know I haven't seen everything yet, since I saw some things posted online that I never found. So playing the story only will definitely provide a shorter experience, but doing the story plus some side content is definitely going to provide a much more lengthy experience. And if you go for the whole thing, you're going to be playing for a long time anyway. However, you will hit a cap. Like, this game is not designed to have you playing it for a very, very long time, so at some point you're not going to be rewarded anymore. Although Techland has been working on this on the sidelines, where they're trying to add more activities to actually even build a bit of an end game for this game, but that's all future stuff. As we speak right now, from what I played, there's definitely a cap that you will hit, where if you keep playing more, it's just because you're trying to get more information from that backstory that I mentioned about the witch trial, or just to really uncover every nook and cranny, but you're not going to be getting massively rewarded with like new weapons or even more levels that increase your strength. But definitely check back in later if that's your kind of thing, because Techland has a tendency of adding more and more content to their games post-launch. The side content in the game though was fantastic. Every single like side quest that I found told a significant story. There were no lazy fetch quests here at all. And if you're one of the fans worried that this will not be worth your money because of it having initially been planned as a DLC, don't worry either. The developers clearly felt the same way and wanted to go out of their way to provide value. And that value is here because, again, it doesn't even feel like an expansion, it feels like a totally new game. A unique, full-fledged experience, and a very polished one at that. I only had one problem with this game, which is a bug that makes some elements in the HUD disappear and makes the jump kick button turn into a drop kick instead. This happens randomly after playing the game for a while. I already reported it to the studio and saw some people with the same issue as well. It's easily reset by restarting the game, but hopefully the developers will get the issue fixed soon. That aside, I have nothing to report here except for my satisfaction. It kinda took me back to the old days, you know, where we would get sequels to come out faster because developers used the foundations that they already had built on previous games and delivered a new worthwhile story that followed a character's journey, improving the engine, the graphics, the lighting, polishing existing animations, existing mechanics, improving them, adding in some new things here and there, and building a whole new playground to play in. Using the time that they saved not building a whole new engine or foundation for a new game on fleshing out the existing stuff to deliver something better and improved at launch for just $60. Think back to stuff like Mass Effect and older Assassin's Creed games, you know, for example. I kinda miss that. I mean, we all know that it could be abused, and it was sometimes, because like everything, the industry will try to take advantage of it to cut corners and do cash grabs, but not every studio does that, and it's just up to us to vote with our wallets, to reject the ones who abuse that to cash grab on franchise names, and support the ones like Techland here who actually provide us with value without having to wait like 5 years for a sequel. But anyway guys, that's it for now when it comes to Dying Light the Beast. I might return to this someday because I love talking about Dying Light, and I think I still have like 2 more videos in the tank, one defending the second game and one glazing how good the original was and how it still holds up today over a decade later. But for now, yeah, I totally recommend this game. Let me know in the comments if you got it already and what do you think about it, or if this video has you inclined towards getting it. But besides that, thank you very much for watching, like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if you didn't, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.